It was an early winter morning, December 30th, 2010. Outside it was very dark. Inside, ice melted in glasses half full of vodka. And finally, silence descended on the house.
Do you remember going to bed that night?
I remember saying, I gotta go to bed because I gotta get up early.
Any idea how much you had to drink?
Probably quite a bit of wine.
And then a single gunshot. It was Rob who discovered his son-in-law Lee, clearly dead, lying on the kitchen floor.
It is horrific and numbing to see someone you love lying there dead.
I remember walking out and looking and just not even believing this, just saying, what are you doing?
It didn't look real, said Belinda. Certainly not in her still inebriated days.
You thought they were putting on some sort of act for you?
I thought it was like a bad joke. I really did.
But it wasn't, of course. Not a joke at all. Instinct kicked in then. Rob, the cop turned attorney, called 911 around 5 a.m.
911, what's your emergency?
He shot himself. I don't get it. He shot himself.
Sergeant Chris Lafko of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office got the call, rushed over there.
It came down as a shooting call, shooting victim, possible suicide.
Once inside the house, the sergeant took a good look at the victim. There was an entry wound at Lee's eye. His hand was grasping the gun. And there was Rob Fisher, still kneeling beside Lee, still holding the phone he used to call 911.
Mr. Fisher stood up and said, I'm a retired police officer, I'm a police officer.
And there was Belinda.
She was going, what's going on, what's going on?
She was in shock then, or so she said later, still perhaps unwilling to get her brain around what happened.
I don't think in your worst nightmare you wake up and see someone you love on the floor with blood around them.
And then to be told he shot himself? Sure, he seemed a little upset by the news he got in that email the night before, but business troubles were nothing new to Lee and Belinda Ratter. They'd been on a financial roller coaster for years. Lee was always chasing the next big thing. And even when they suffered, when the car was repossessed or when he couldn't pay the electricity and the power was off for 5 days, they got along.
But during the years you were together, the big thing wasn't happening.
No.
Pretty frustrating, I would think.
It was frustrating. It was frustrating.
And on occasion, Lee turned for financial help to his stepfather-in-law, Rob Fisher. In fact, after their home went into foreclosure, Rob rescued their house, he bought it, and Lee and Belinda continued to make the monthly mortgage payments.
In the years I knew him, he went from owning a very successful company to being bankrupt and needing our help.
That's why Belinda went back to school, got her nursing degree. Her paycheck maintained some stability, while Lee kept trying.
Did you ever have any regrets about being with Lee?
No. Mm-mm.
Even though sometimes it was tough, right?
Yeah, a lot of times. We did the roller coaster. Did I want him to get a staple job? Hell yes. Would I have loved that? Would it have made my life so much easier? Absolutely.
Everyone who knew Lee was used to the roller coaster, but never saw it get Lee down.
What did you admire about him?
I think his ability to always see the glass half full. He was not a negative person.
This is Lee's friend and sometimes business associate, Eric Lampel.
I've seen Lee be rich with a new Jaguar. I've seen him in bankruptcy and losing the house.
And besides, that latest thing looked so promising.
Well, we started this company called Senecon. He came up with this technology that uses computers to track gaming trends.
This time, Lee was on the verge of scoring big, closing a big deal that would make them both rich.
Lee was certain it was going to happen in the new year.
So that evening, said Rob, Lee was in a very good mood indeed.
He was enthusiastic.
And then, it was late. They were already well into their cups. Lee got that email and left the room to make a phone call.
So this wasn't just a little quickie he was called away for, it was a longer period of time.
No, it was a longer period of time. And I remember him coming back and showing me something on his phone, like the email or something, and being upset about it. And I was like, why are you trying to worry about this now? Like, there's nothing you can do. It's 11 o'clock at night or whatever it was. Like, save it for tomorrow.
And that was it, she said. She didn't give it a lot of thought because she and Rob were in deep conversation about her late mother.
So that's where your mind was.
Mm-hmm.
Though Rob did notice Lee seemed a little thrown.
He did make comments that night that, again, I took as sarcasm. In retrospect, I wished I would have paid more attention.
About his situation.
Yeah.
But really, what could have been in that email that was so bad he'd decide to kill himself?
There was probably a lot more pressure on him than he would let on.
But that conclusion, reasonable or not, came later, with sobriety. When the cops arrived that early bloody morning, the Rob they encountered was clearly plastered, barely coherent. But how's this for a red flag? He acted, said the sergeant, like he didn't even know who was dead.
He asked me, is that Lee in there? Meaning his son-in-law. And it's just in the back of my mind, well, why wouldn't you know who this person is?
So what was really going on here? A detective named Michael Brooks arrived, took one look at two intoxicated adults, and suggested a ride to the sheriff's department for a few questions. Something about this did not look right.
And somebody wasn't acting right either, according to investigators.
I mean, to me, if my spouse was lying on the ground suffering a fatal wound, I'd make every effort to at least look at my spouse. She didn't do that.
Belinda, under the microscope, when Dateline continues.